Broncos top pass rusher Bradley Chubb will be traded likely by Tuesday if Denver loses to the Jaguars, according to Mike Florio. Denver is a team that went into this season with some high expectations. Obviously, you trade for Russell Wilson. You have all these assets. You get a new head coach. You're thinking you could turn around this organization in a year. Is it jarring that by week 8, we're already talking fire sale with this team?
Well, the answer, I think, is yes and no, because rare is the situation where the best teams in the NFL also happen to have a ton of draft picks. Like usually we think of like the best teams have lower draft picks and they trade picks to get better players and stuff like that. This is the rare year where the best teams in the NFL all have a ton of draft picks also. Like Kansas City has all of those draft picks from Miami still at their disposal. You're looking at the San Francisco 49ers with all their compensatory picks that helped them go get Christian McCaffrey. You look at the Buffalo Bills, who haven't really added draft picks, but they have all of their draft picks at their disposal. They haven't made any all-in moves yet over the past 3 years. Green Bay's not a great team, but they're also a desperate team with a ton of draft picks. Philadelphia has an extra first-round pick from New Orleans. Like, somehow the best teams in the sport have also positioned themselves with an excess of draft picks. So if you're a team like Denver, New Orleans, Arizona, teams that I think you look at your realistic chances to make the playoffs and say, we're either sellers or we're kind of in the middle. I think those teams should be shopping their top talent and like seeing what you can get, like putting it on the table and seeing if someone will give you an offer you can't refuse. I saw the Panthers did refuse 2 first-round picks for Brian Burns. So clearly teams are trying to acquire top-level talent. And if I'm Denver, if I get a Godfather type of offer in exchange for a Bradley Chubb, a good offer for Jerry Jeudy or KJ Hamler, I think that it's a good idea to prioritize flexibility and possibly see if you can get good value, because it seems like this is a market with a lot of buyers and not a whole lot of sellers this year.
So is this an indictment on Russell Wilson? Is it already waving the white flag if you're the Denver Broncos?
I mean, yeah, but they kind of should. Like the Denver Broncos, it's waving the white flag, but they also should wave the white flag at this point, because there's nothing Hackett can do to save his job other than like they just turn into a top 10 offense all of a sudden, which given the injuries to Bulls, Risner, Javonte Williams, Russell Wilson, I don't think that that's going to happen the rest of the season. So like, the coach is on his way out the door. You have a brand new ownership group that, we're going to find out whether they're well run or not. So we'll see what happens there. I think it's an indictment of the whole organization, but also what are you going to do? Like your season's already gone into the dumpster. So I think realistically, they're smart to not double down on this.
Also mentioned in trade rumors is Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy has been connected to the New York Giants, who are also searching for a wide receiver. Is it as simple as flipping Bradley Chubb and Jerry Jeudy? Do you think that will at least fix the Broncos draft issues for the next couple of years?
Depends what you can get. Like, this is the thing that confused me about the tweet of like, if they lose to the Jaguars, is like when you're doing this strategy, if you're one of these teams like Denver or Arizona or New Orleans, who's shopping people. I know Arizona just traded for Robbie Anderson, but they should be shopping JJ Watt before the deadline. Like if you're one of these teams, you should have a set price that a team has to meet. It shouldn't be contingent on your results oriented. It should be that you set a price, and if a team reaches it, then you consider making a trade. Like, I don't understand that part of it. And again, it all depends on what they get. If they get a first round pick for Jerry Jeudy, I mean, power to them. They should absolutely walk away with that one. But if they get a third round pick for Jerry Jeudy, it's not as great.
Can they? Because we look at first round picks for wide receivers. Amari was a first round pick for a wide receiver. Jerry Jeudy at this point in his career hasn't reached Amari Cooper standards. And then you mentioned Brian Burns almost going for 2 first-round picks. Bradley Chubb has only been a double-digit sack guy once in his career, and it was his rookie year. That was pre-knee injury Bradley Chubb. Bradley Chubb this season, a little bit of a renaissance. He's already up to 5.5, but where does that compare against pass rushers that we've seen go in the past? Because the market, we look at a guy like Khalil Mack, a couple first-round picks, a couple high-round picks there. Jamal Adams, a couple first-round picks. I know he's a safety, a DB, but still considered somewhat of a pass rusher, a bit of a hybrid. Those are what premier defensive players typically go. Is Bradley Chubb more of similar to the Von Miller deal that they got, where you had 2 mid-round picks go? Is that more of appropriate evaluation of what Bradley Chubb is as a player?
Well, so if I'm Denver and that's the offer I get, I would just rather keep Bradley Chubb and extend Bradley Chubb. Like I don't see the reason to do that unless you're going to get an offer of like a rebuilding type of package.
He's
Like
26.
I don't.
He's
Yeah.
26 years old. Again, he's had a little bit of a bounce back in production this year. If he's at 5.5, then he's on pace to at least match his career high, 12 sacks, rookie year. It just feels like forever ago when we're talking about a player that was drafted way back when in 2018.
Yeah. Yeah. This would be his 5th season at this point. No, this would be his 4th season at this point because he missed that year with the injury. So, I mean, I'm just interested by what they would even get for Bradley Chubb. Like, is it an offer just to get rid of him? Because usually this is a thing that happens in the NFL. We're learning this with the Matt Ryan trade, and we're learning this with the Carson Wentz trade. And we kind of have learned it. Like, there's a reason that teams trade players. Usually, a symbiotic relationship of if a team wants you, a player usually signs an extension. Is that a case of players don't have the same amount of like contractual freedom as say the NBA does? Part of it is true. And another part of it is teams rarely ever let their players go unless they have a good reason to do so. And I know that's changed a little bit the last couple of years. So maybe Denver has information we don't about Jeudy and Bradley Chubb. From a surface level point of view, it looks like a desperation play if you feel like you have to trade those guys for 70 cents on the dollar.
So let's say that he went for the Von Miller deal. That was a 2nd and a 3rd round pick in 2021. Based off his production, I would say that would sound about right, because the thing you look about with Von Miller, particularly when the Broncos traded him, he seemed like he was a declining player. Obviously, we've seen that Von Miller had a little bit of second life once he went to Los Angeles and what he's doing right now with the Buffalo Bills. But a 2nd and a 3rd round pick was the value at the time. I would say, again, based off a guy that rarely reaches double-digit sacks, or at least has only done it once in his career, I would say a 2nd and 3rd round pick feels about right, because again, premium pass rushers, that's hard to find in the NFL. That's a position that's hard to replicate. So I think Bradley Chubb, if he goes to the right fit, and part of the problem is finding the right fit, every team could use a pass rusher. There's no team that could not use a pass rusher. I mean, the thing that has made the Niners good is, okay, let's have a defensive line just stacked with 3 pass rushers deep. And that's why the Niners have been able to be good. It's one of those underrated positions, but yet also one of the more highly paid positions if you had a guy who could get the quarterback to the ground. Bradley Chubb, I would say if they are able to get at least multiple seconds, I would say if you give me multiple seconds for Bradley Chubb, I think that's worth it. If I can get maybe a 1st and a 3rd, 1st and a 4th, okay, I could kind of work with it. I would prefer the 1st and 3rd or 2 seconds. But if we have to kind of like negotiate a little bit, I understand it. Jerry Jeudy, at worst, a 2nd round pick. I don't think that if you're getting a 3rd round pick or a 4th round pick for a guy you drafted in the 1st round a couple of years ago, that's a worth it deal to make, especially because if you want this Russell Wilson experiment to work, if you really want it to work, you probably need Jerry Jeudy and you probably need Courtland Sutton, and you need those pieces that on the outside that we thought when Russ went to town would have made better. And you just hope that Russell Wilson, with whoever the next head coach is, whoever the next offense play caller is, can figure it out with those 2 wide receivers, because they're cheaper than some of the other premium wide receivers in the league.
Yeah, and one of the things to note about Bradley Chubb is that he's playing this year on the 5th-year option, which is a unique situation for someone who's a top 5 pick, because usually top 5 picks don't end up in that limbo of like, well, we think he's like a franchise tag player. He's a classic franchise tag player type of situation. And so maybe Denver just does it to avoid the franchise tag conundrum. I mean, it seems pretty clear that if they wanted to keep Bradley Chubb long term, they would have extended him by now. So maybe this is just to avoid that limbo. But the point of the trade should not be we're not competing anymore this season. The point of the trade should be we get value that we feel is equivalent to what Bradley Chubb is worth. And so
I'll give you a trade.
I don't know how that's going to work out.
I'll give you a trade. Denver Broncos, Aaron Rodgers to Denver, Russell Wilson to Green Bay, throw in Bradley Chubb. We'll just solve everyone's issues. We'll throw in Jerry Jeudy.
Doesn't solve anyone's issues. It just makes everyone sad. It just makes everyone involved sad.
Everyone's already sad. Everyone in Green Bay and Denver is sad this season.
Yeah, I know, but you're not going to. You already dug your own graves with those ones. Russell Wilson's going to be the Broncos quarterback for 3 years. Aaron Rodgers is going to be the Packers quarterback for 4 years.
You would make Nathaniel Hackett very happy because then he would have job security with Aaron Rodgers because
he wouldn't. Yes, no, he would not.
Yes, he absolutely would. Nathaniel Hackett is probably only in Denver because they wanted to trade for Aaron Rodgers.
And it was a terrible experiment because he's a bad offensive coach who doesn't know clock management and was clearly not qualified for that job.
I won't dispute you on the clock thing. Or Russell Wilson ruins head coaches. Russell Wilson ruins offensive coordinators.
I don't want to diminish the legacy of Russell Wilson in Seattle. I don't want to be disrespectful.
has diminished Russell Wilson.
I don't want to be disrespectful.
Every week disrespects Russell Wilson.
Oh, yeah, I get that. It's just
Doug Baldwin just out of free time decides, you know what? What have I done today? I ate, I shaved. Have I tweeted about Russell Wilson? No, I haven't. Let me get that done.
Bruce Irvin's been going after Russell Wilson this year. Like, Denver's case at this point is if you trade Jerry Jeudy and if you trade Bradley Chubb, you are preserving money to then spend on another receiver. If you are making those moves, you are preserving financial flexibility in order to spend that money somewhere else. I think, again, my whole thing about the Denver Broncos is the Broncos are a team that 10 years from now, maybe not exactly 10, but they're going to look up and be like, it's been 15 years since we won a playoff game. How about that? It's been 15 years since we're basically the 2000s Miami Dolphins as Patrick Mahomes wins 15 division titles in 16 years like the Patriots. And I think that a lot of times when we're talking about the Broncos, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Will trading Bradley Chubb solve their problems? No. Will it make them better? I don't know. Like, they're just kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, because there is really nothing they can do at this point. I still believe that 9.5 times out of 10, I'm making the Russell Wilson trade, knowing the information I have now, because who turns down Russell Wilson for 2 first-round picks?
See the problem. The problem is when I made that trade, I was hoping I was acquiring Russell Wilson, not shorter Brock Osweiler.
Oh, yeah, that's totally fair. It's still better than what the Broncos QB situation has been the last few years, and Russell Wilson's going to get 3 years to work
Teddy
through
Bridgewater
this.
Might be the better quarterback.
It's fair. I just give it more time with Russell because he's going to get 3 years to work.
I guess we got to give it more time. I said Green Bay as a potential trade destination. Give me a Bradley Chubb trade destination before he head out.
What would be a great trade destination? You know who would be fun? Dallas. That would be great. Dallas would be fun. Just plop him in for Randy Gregory. They swap outside linebackers.
I feel like cool. we both kind of had the same mindset, right? Let's just try and solve each other's issues. Let's go back to the offseason and pull up some storylines.
I'll also throw out a name that isn't getting thrown around. I think it's more likely that KJ Hamler gets dealt instead of Jerry Jeudy because more teams can afford KJ Hamler's price tag of like a 4th round pick. I think Green Bay would throw a 4th round pick at KJ Hamler. That's a
very Green Bay move. That is a very Green Bay move. Let's save on wide receivers, right?
Yeah, pretty much. You know, the 49ers got some injuries. We'll just throw a 4th round pick at KJ Hamler. You got Baltimore over there needing to left. Yeah. Baltimore over there needing an extra receiver. We'll just throw a little pick at KJ Hamler.
I don't hate that one. I think that one have potential. Baltimore, I could see being a team that gets in on that mix. I would say Minnesota also. Name another NFC North power. If Minnesota did, I think they could use a little bit of a boost to their pass rush to kind of make them a more physical team. But I think that's a good close. Anyway, guys, if you have any trade destinations for Bradley Chubb, we'd like to hear your thoughts in the comment section. What moves would you like to see happen? Is it just Jerry Jeudy? Is it Bradley Chubb? Is there some other piece on the Denver Broncos you'd like to see move before the deadline? I'd like to hear your thoughts. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on all our social medias from Juju and Kyle. Stay safe, happy, and healthy, and we will see you on the next one.